If you want to make your blues playing more interesting, specifically your chord playing, one of the things you can do is start to add chord substitutions to the 1, 4, and 5 chord. This sounds complicated, and when you watch other people do it, it looks random, but there are actually some small specific steps you can take to get started. In this lesson, I want to show you how to take just 3 different versions of the 1 chord and use that to start developing a more interesting way to play over the 1, 4, and 5 chord changes of an 8-bar blues. Okay, so what we're going to do is take 3 different chord voicings or chord shapes for the 1 chord and see how you can use that to create different ways to play through the first few bars of an 8-bar blues. We're going to do this in the key of G on the tune Trouble in Mind. And if you'd like to go into a lot more detail about this idea, I encourage you to check out my upcoming workshop, Chord Substitutions, which I'm teaching this Saturday, March 30th. It'll be a live online workshop, and you can find out all you want to know about that at the link below or the link on screen. So Trouble in Mind is an 8-bar blues, and if we play it in the key of G, the 1 chord is G. I'm using a G6 chord right now. The 4 chord is C. In this case, I'm playing a C6 chord. And the 5 chord is D, and in this case, I'm playing a D with the 5th in the bass, a D7 over A. So this 1 chord is the root, the 6th, and the 3rd. I'm using the same root, 6th, and 3rd to play the C chord, and I'm using the 5th, the 3rd, and the flat 7 to play D7. So those are the basic 1, 4, and 5 chords. Now for the G, we're going to do 3 different voicings of G, starting with this G6, and then going to G over B. So I've got the 3rd, and the root, and the 5th of G here. And then G7 over D. Here's the 5th, the 3rd, and the flat 7 of G. So these 3 shapes are all different ways you can play G, or the 1 chord. So if we were going to play the first 4 bars of Trouble in Mind, we'd have a bar of 1, and then a bar of 5, a bar of 1, and a bar of 4. And you can see you're kind of jumping around. So the first thing we can do to smooth things out is play the 1 chord and then the 5 chord, and then play this version of the 1 chord with the 3rd and the bass, and then the 4 chord. So now we're just kind of climbing up the neck. So just having that one alternate voicing for the 1 chord makes things a lot smoother, and you get this really nice musical climb that's got sort of a purpose and a sense of direction. So chord substitutions can smooth out the motion, but they can also add more rhythmic interest. So instead of just sitting on a chord for 4 beats, we could use 2 different versions of a chord so that we can have 2 beats here and 2 beats here. So now in that first bar, before we get to the D chord, we've got more action. And we can do the same thing here. When we're back on the 1 chord, we can go up to this 1 chord before we land on the 4 chord. So now we've got and more motion in the chords means more momentum overall. Now having that kind of motion can be kind of addictive. Once you're moving like this, you might think, well, how can I have 2 different chords on the D chord? And in order to do that, you have to start playing around with what chords are allowed. So maybe instead of just playing D7 for a bar, you play A minor 7 for 2 beats. Here's the root and the flat 7 and the flat 3rd of A minor, and then going to D7, and then maybe after you've landed on the C, after 2 beats you go to C minor 6, root 6 and flat 3rd, because that's going to take you back more smoothly to G, and then you get something like each step along the way, you're just changing one or maybe two things so that what you're doing still makes sense in terms of what the overall skeleton of the song is, the 1, 4, and 5, but you're doing it guided by the ideas that you want to have motion that makes sense and that you want to have a certain amount of rhythmic momentum. So that's the idea. Again, we're starting with some really simple elements, just the 1, 4, and 5 of the basic chord progression and a few specific voicings that you can use for, say, the 1 chord or the 4 chord or the 5 chord. And then if you're guided by a couple of musical ideas like direction and rhythmic momentum, you can start to put together a vocabulary of chord moves that you can use no matter what song you're playing on. If you know how to get from the 1 to the 4, how to get from the 4 to the 1, how to get from the 1 to the 5, that's a set of repeatable moves that's portable, and you can take those ideas and apply them to other blues songs or just any other songs that you want to play. Of course, this is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. If you'd like to take a more in-depth and organized look at all of these ideas, I encourage you to check out my upcoming Chord Substitutions workshop, a 2-hour live stream class that I'll be offering this coming Saturday, March 30th. We'll be looking at the chord shapes you need to know, not just for the 1 chord, but for all the chords in a key, how to start putting those chord shapes together into a reliable set of chord moves that will take you from chord to chord, and finally, how to apply those chord moves to a number of different blues standards so you can start to see how you can apply those chord moves to any kind of 1, 4, and 5 tune that you might want to play. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy working on this lesson. If you've got a question about chord substitutions, please leave it for me down below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.